Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to learn about the controls in Power Automate and the different type of loops like apply to each, do until, scope and the switch. And we'll discuss about the condition and the terminate as well. Now the first thing here is where we can find these loops. To find them, first we have to click here on new tab, select control. Under control head, you can find all the listed action related to loop and condition. As you can see here, we'll discuss one by one about them, and we'll discuss about condition in the end with some use case. First, let's start with the loops like apply to each, do until, switch, scope, terminate. So let's start with the apply to each. Here, the question is, what is the use of apply to each and where we can use apply to each? To answer this, let's say you have a collection of employee details and you want to process single record at a time, then this can be done using apply to each action, where apply to each helps to iterate records one by one and provide flexibility to investigate each record individually and take decision as per the requirement. So this is something which you can do using apply to each or do until. Both can work. Or if I talk about another scenario where you could use apply to each or the do until is, you could use in such cases where you are updating records from a database or a list of items from Microsoft SharePoint. So there are tons of scenarios where you can use apply to each or do until or different type of loops in Power Automate. So let's start with the apply to each, how we can use it and how to implement apply to each. Before including the apply to each action, let me fetch in some data from the SharePoint list. To do that, we need to add get items, pass in the site name and the list name, employee onboarding, and in filter I don't want any null records. Initialize one more variable, basically of type string, where we are going to store the uh, email ID of the onboarded employees from the SharePoint list, and further on we'll send that data via email to our manager. So search for the variable, initialize variable. This is collection of employee emails and the type is string. Later on we are going to use append string action. So now we are good to go to include our apply to each, where we are going to iterate records one by one. And to do this, what you have to do is pass in the object. You can select value from here. Value is the output of your previous action, and we are iterating that object one by one. Now select append to string variable action and select your email address variable. Select your variable. What value it is going to hold is, let's pass in the value, or you can search from here email. Always remember, while you are using uh, variables or the data from the dynamic content, always look for the what is the head name, or what is the source of that particular item. So this is the output of get items, so we don't want this. So what you have to do here is you need to pass in the expression to get data from the iteration. And how you can do is you can write something like this expression item and the name of your loop, apply to each, and question mark, and what column or what data you are looking for. We need email IDs of an employee and click on OK. This is done here. Now let me test it whether it is working as expected. Our flow ran successfully. Let me check the output. Okay, we need to add one separator as well. And now we are good to go with sending an email to manager. Pass in the body. We have data in our string. Now let's execute it. Our flow ran successfully. Now let me show you in my Outlook. As you can see here, this is the email, employees email, and these are the email IDs. So this is how you can use apply to each to iterate records one by one from the collection. So this is all about apply to each. Now the next in our queue is do until. Do until control in Power Automate is a type of loop that repeatedly executes until the defined condition becomes true. So let me demonstrate you how you can use it. How you can use do until. Before passing some parameters in do until, let us include one variable first, basically count variable, which we are going to use in this do until loop. Select initialize variable, give it a name, select the type as integer, default value is 0. Now in do until, select count from here and how many times you would like to execute this loop. Let's say 5 times I'm going to execute it. Add one more variable here, cancel it, search for variable, and we are going to append the loop index, how many times the loop is executing. So we are going to append it in a string variable, initialize variable, index, select string, come here and do until, search for append variable, select your variable name, index, and the value is going to be count. Select value from dynamic content. Now we need to increment our count value by 1. So search for increment variable and the name of variable by 1. Okay, Later on, we are going to pass the loop index in our email. You can simply pass the index variable here. Now let me test it. Flow ran successfully, and the output, to see the output, let me navigate to our mailbox. Here is the email. As you can see here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times our do until loop executed. So here are the index values. So this is how you can use do until and apply to each. Now in our queue, next is scope. Scope is used to organize your flow. Suppose you have created a flow with many actions and it is tough to scroll down and up if you want to change anything. So it is really time taking, and that is not something which is advisable. So in such cases, scope plays a major role to organize your entire flow in small blocks. You can put interrelated actions within the same scope. Let me show you a demo how you can use scope. Click here, add an action, go to controls, select scope, and in scope you can drag and drop related actions, and you can rename it loops. So this is how you can, minimize the length of your entire flow, and it is really useful when you are working on some complex uh, flow and it is very lengthy and there are a lot of actions. Then you can use scope and you can minimize the length by creating small blocks like this. And let me show you our flow run successfully. How you can use loop scopes to organize your flow. Uh, in terms of execution, there is no specific logic for the scope. Scopes are just to organize your entire flow and basically which help us to manage the complex flows. So this is all about scope. Next in our queue is switch. To understand switch, we are going to create a separate flow. This is our onboarding list. In case of onboarding, an email will trigger to the respective department about the new hiring. So let's set up a flow for it. Come here, select automated cloud flow, new hire email, and whenever a new item is created in our SharePoint list, an automated email will trigger to the respective department. This we are going to do it using the switch. Our list name is employee onboarding. Now add switch this when department is equal to HR, then select send email. In case of default, just terminate the loop. You can use this action to terminate the loop. IT, another department is admin. Okay, let us execute it. Now flow is waiting for the input. Okay, Raj Parihar is the new employee, 08 code, and he's from IT. Raj at XYZ company, and save it. Come back to our flow. Flow ran successfully. Now let me go back to my Outlook and let's see what is the result. Email has been received, new hire, employee name Raj Parihar, employee ID, and the department. So this is how you can use switch. In this case, this was the case which executed. Our input was IT, so the only IT condition executed. Now the next in our queue is the condition or if else statement. Let's do the similar task using if statement, if and else statement. To do it, come here, control and condition. Now if the department is HR, then send email, provide the required information. If department is not HR, then it could be IT. So I'm not going to repeat this task. I just wanted to show you how complex it is to use if else condition in such cases. And you can see here, let's say if the department is not HR, not IT, then the third could be the admin. Now you again need to add the if else action, and again you need to pass and check for the admin. So look at the structure here. Just to show you structure, I am zooming out. See the structure, how complex it is and how complex to maintain such structure. So instead of using if else statement in this such cases, the best advice here is to use the switch. Let me save and execute it. Waiting for input. And save. Come back to our flow. flow ran successfully. Come back here. Here we have two emails. One we received from the switch and one we received from the if statement. So this is how you can use conditions. So this is all about the loops and the condition in Power Automate. We'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.